Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Land of Music podcast with your host, Adam Roach.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So you're in Melbourne, are you?
I am indeed.
Oh, whereabouts?
Just in Mount Waverley.
Oh,
How
okay.
about yourself?
I'm in South Morang.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the other side.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, oh, thanks for doing this for us.
No worries. Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you guys just got back, didn't you? Was it from America and Mexico and everything?
Yeah, we did. We had 27 shows over the last kind of 5.5 weeks in US, Canada, and Mexico, which was amazing. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's unreal. So you guys go over there much?
I mean, it depends. I mean, we try to get everywhere every year or two
Yeah,
as much as we can. Obviously we had a break for a few years
yeah.
with the pandemic from being regular visitors to anywhere,
Mm,
but we kind of, as much as we can, we have it in our heads, the different parts of the world, and okay, we haven't been this place in a while, and to where to prioritize to come to next. And
yeah.
the last time we were in the USA was November 2023. So it had been like about 18 months or so. And yeah, it's always, a pleasure to get there. We were on a really fun tour with some other great bands, Dying Fetus, Cradle of Filth, Flash God Apocalypse, and a few others. And so it was a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it's been going, what, since, was it 2003? Is that when it first started, the band?
Yes, all the way back to 2003,
Wow.
which feels like a lifetime ago, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like I'm 42 years old now, and I was 21 when the band first started. I was just a uni student, studying violin at uni, and um, to be honest, I never really thought a band kind of creating, I guess, what I thought was kind of weird underground type music would be able to do all the stuff that we have done. But it's been a really amazing thing to just see each album, the band continue to grow.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the musicianship of the band. It's just incredible. It's like just going through the one song. So in Plague Flowers, the Colour Scope.
Yep.
That's just an amazing piece of music, that one. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I think from the beginning we always just wanted to write music that was interesting to us. I was always inspired by a lot of different composers and musicians from many, many different genres.
Mm.
And in the world of metal, there wasn't any artists I wanted to sound like per se, but I was inspired by artists who mixed genres together and were more experimental or took risks. And when this band was first starting, um, albums like Blackwater Park by Opeth or Issa by Enslaved, or soon after that it was, Colors by Between the Buried and Me. These were different bands who were kind of mixing genres together. And
Yep.
um, rather than wanting to do it in their way, I was like, oh, that does that mean I can just do whatever I want? So, that's what I started trying to do in the early Obliviscaris music, just mixing in together different things that I liked, and working out with my bandmates, what we liked as a collective, and
Yep.
then crossed our fingers that hopefully someone else would like it when we eventually release something.
Yeah. Well, it definitely comes across. I mean, because when you hear it, it's really hard to describe or compare it to anything else. It's like, it is original what you guys are doing. I mean, I'm sure there's other bands that do similar type things, but for me, especially adding the violin as well, you don't see that a lot. You know.
No, I mean, when I first started, the idea of playing the violin in a metal band, it was kind of something that was slowly growing within me at the time, but there was very few examples to copy whatsoever.
Yeah.
I was a huge metalhead from when I was in high school, and I had heard things like, say, Metallica's S&M record with the symphony, or then when I discovered Apocalyptica, which was, four cellos playing metal music with distortion and things like that. That was very inspiring for me.
Yep.
But there was no one really doing that on the violin. And in the world of metal, most of the violinists who uh, were in any way involved in heavy metal were often playing in more of a folk or classical style. And for me, I was coming, my heritage as a violinist was very much classical, but the way I played, I played a lot of jazz, I improvised, I liked experimenting on the instrument, and I wanted to play more like Jeff Loomis from Nevermore or Don Petrucci from Dream Theater, but on the violin.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really heard of violinists that wanted to be a guitarist in the way that I did before. And so I think that's why the way that I play in metal is quite different, to everyone else, even to this day. There's not really another violinist in the world of metal that plays in my style. I recently became friends with Eddie Berg from Imminence a few months ago. One of the other rare bands that does have a violinist, and they're doing incredible things. We have a bit of a different style from each other, but it's been nice to see another band with a violinist start to
Yeah,
do well in the world of metal.
exactly. So did you play guitar as well, or just always violin?
When I was about 17, I started teaching myself guitar because I really wanted to play in a band, and I didn't really think that playing the violin in a band was an
Yeah.
option. I'd been playing violin since I was 6 years old. Um, and I thought, well, maybe I can be like a singer and a guitar player because I wanted to write songs. But I was never very good at guitar. So look, when we very first started writing music for Obliviscaris, I did write quite a few of the early songs on guitar. So even though I never played guitar in the band, although in the early days, I did used to bring my guitar to rehearsal back in 2004 for a little while.
Yeah.
We were working on new songs and things like that. But over time, I really stopped working on guitar because the guitarists within our band, Matt and Benjamin, were just so incredible, and they were getting better and better, and the stuff they were writing was at such a high level on the guitar, and I couldn't play it. And I thought, well, I'll focus a bit more on my thing. And so I play a bit of piano, I play a bit of guitar, enough to write a bit on both.
Yep.
Obviously, violin and singing are my kind of more my expertise. But so I play a little bit, only really functional to help with writing the music.
Hmm.
And then yeah, focus on the things that I'm best at from there.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, it's really when you think about it, you say what 21 years or something, whatever it's been. Because when you say 2003, you don't really think of it as that far ago, because we think of the 90s, oh, ages ago, but but really, I mean, yeah, 2003, it's quite a while ago now. So you've been playing in this band a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it feels like I'm referring to almost a different person because it is, like a 42-year-old man. I got a 13-year-old daughter, and we've been touring the world for about a decade now. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking back to me when I was just at university and just very green-eyed about the music industry and just having this dream of wanting to write my own songs
Mm.
and play on stage. And really my dream was just to open up for the bands that I loved. Like that was really you know the extent of what I dreamed about. And then when we started doing that, then it was sort of like, oh well, wouldn't it be cool if we could play this venue, but everyone's actually here for us,
Yeah.
instead of just us opening up for a bigger band. And I guess that's the really cool thing about where we're at now, especially here in Australia. When we tour around the country, we get to perform at venues that I've paid money to go see so many of my favorite bands at these venues. And it's just an honor and a privilege to get to go up on stage in these places.
Yeah. So are you guys actually based in Melbourne? Because I know like your vocalist from the States, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. So half the band is based in Melbourne. Me, our drummer Dan, and our guitarist Matt. Benji, our lead guitarist, he did live in Australia for many years, but he moved back to France in 2017, I think it was. And then about the same time, we started looking for a new bass player, and we already had one member in Europe, so we thought, well, let's just get the best person available.
Yeah.
And they were in Italy, so we got Martino on bass in Italy. And then when Zen kind of took a back seat on vocals a couple years ago, and we needed to find someone to fill in, and then eventually, became our new full-time vocalist in January this year. We got James Dorden, who's from Chicago, USA. So, and then on our upcoming tour, our sound engineer, he lives in Portugal. We fly him everywhere we go. So, we have always a very multicultural, van, bus, plane trips, a lot of interesting discussions and good times.
Well, that's amazing. So you guys, I guess you don't rehearse every week, of course, because in different countries. But how do you go about that? Like with rehearsing, writing songs, and everything.
Yeah, so in our early days, I would say from about 2003 through to 2014, I guess we basically rehearsed every Sunday, 12 till 5 o'clock at a local rehearsal studio here in Melbourne called the Dane Centre,
I
um,
know them. Yeah.
up in Brunswick area, and yeah, and it was just every week for more than a decade, and that was really how we got better. Because I always joke with people, especially if younger bands ask me for advice, I often tell them that, just keep at it because we weren't very good when we started, but we really did work very, very hard for a long, long, long time before we got anywhere significant. These days, you know, when we have a tour, if we're doing new songs or songs we haven't played in a while, we'll just meet up to rehearse for a day or two. On our last US tour, we just met up in San Francisco a couple days early. We just had, one like long 8-10 hour day at a rehearsal studio in Berkeley, California. And then the next day straight into the concerts. And then if we're, during that tour, we were then doing some longer shows in Mexico at the end of the tour. And so every time we had a sound check, it's like, oh, we should play Growl because we've got to do that in Mexico in 2 weeks and we haven't played it in a few months or something. So that would be the sound check song that day. And we would use our sound checks to kind of run through things quite a lot. Um, and then with writing, we all have kind of home recording studio setups to some degree. The room I'm in right now, I actually recorded quite a lot of the vocals for our latest album, Exile. And that means that we can basically record certain bits. We email through the files and we can kind of add them together to create, different demos of the songs. And technology is quite an amazing thing.
Yeah, oh, it is. I mean, actually, I did an album back in like during COVID days, and I had like the producer was from France, the other guitarist was from Brazil. We used
Yeah.
people from around the world. It's just amazing the way you can do it these days.
Absolutely. Well, we were originally going to record our latest album, Exile, all in Melbourne. We're going to fly everyone here in March 2020. Of course, everyone knows what happened in March 2020.
Exactly.
And so our whole album got shut down about a week beforehand. And in the end, we recorded it in 9 different recording studios in 4 different countries
Oh,
over 2.5 years. So it was this very long, long process. So it took a lot longer than planned, but we got it done in the long run.
yeah. So do you have like a go-to studio in Melbourne, like before? Maybe not now because you guys got your own stuff, but did you have a studio before you used to go to?
Yeah, yeah. We recorded um our album Portal Vi and our second album Citadel, and then a lot of Earn and then little bits of Exile as well at Pony Music here in Melbourne. And so that was kind of the studio, we worked there closely with Troy McCosker for a lot of different things. And yeah, so every album we've at least entered that studio for something. Like that's where I recorded all the violins and the extra strings on the latest album were recorded at Pony Music.
Yeah. Is that the one in Richmond? Maybe?
That is in is it Hallam or Narre Warren?
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that sort of area. Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Other side of town.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I used to rehearse at Dane back in the day, I had a Hawkwind cover band.
Sure.
Back when my hair was like yours down here. So that was a great studio. Like, take your cars in and get the studio there and everything. It was great.
Yeah, yeah. And we were literally there for 11, 12 years, pretty much every week, and so, it was funny because it wasn't anything that we really thought that we would ever make a living off or make money from. But at the same time, we took it very seriously, and I really wanted the band to get as far as it could go.
Yeah.
And I looked at other bands and thought, wasn't that I thought we were better, it was more that I thought, why not us?
Mm.
Yeah, that band's good. We can be good. We just need to keep working. Maybe we can be good too.
Yeah, yeah.
And eventually, I feel pretty confident saying we're a pretty good band these days.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
100%.
and so, it took a while to get there, but that's that dedication and that kind of almost blind dedication to something that, we just wanted to make sure that the band was the best version of itself it could be, and just had so much fun, writing and playing music.
Yeah. And I guess the thing is too, like you guys were different. Like, you're saying there's a lot of great bands out there, but they all do sound very similar and same type of material. But you guys had something. So it definitely paid off what you did.
Yeah, well, I think that, we always just tried to be ourselves. We're all
Mm.
quite different individually. Everyone that you meet is a little bit different in some way. And, it's like if you check anyone's, Spotify or Apple Music playlist or something like that, everyone's music playlist is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so if you learn how to be your true authentic self as a musician, then what you create artistically is going to be a little bit different. It's just learning that skill of not just copying the people you love, but taking everything that you've loved musically and artistically, internalizing it, and then working out how to express it in your own unique way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I guess that really comes across in the song we were talking about before, the color scope one. Uh,
Yeah.
like I wrote down notes here because I noticed it was actually I saw something about it was included in a teaching curriculum in Sydney, which is amazing.
Yes.
Part of it, they analysed it and broke it down, which I actually started to do before I saw that because it's all like I mean, it shows the talents of each member to start with. Starting with your violin playing, and then they're like the flamenco type thing, I guess, with the guitar.
Yep.
Um, Double bass with the drum, which is amazing. And then the guitar solos again, adding a bit of tapping, and even with the bass, it's doing his
Yeah.
tapping thing. And then with your clean and the harsh vocals, that song to me has got everything you could ask for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely been a song that's done very well for us. It's always been something that has grabbed people's attention, I think, because of the unusual combination of genres,
Yeah, yeah,
and different techniques, all kind of tossed in together within that song. Yeah, I think I guess about a decade ago or so, that it was Professor Matthew Heinsohn um, included that song as part of an assignment at the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, which was very cool because the students had the option of, you know, um, studying a range of different pieces, including ours and the other composers. It was, like Beethoven and Bach and all these other things.
yeah.
And he kind of threw ours in as an example of a modern example to the students of different types of like vocal techniques and different types of composition, or even, it's the opening section is in a 5/8 time signature, and there's a lot of different things that are kind of part of that song that make it quite an interesting one to study. And so, I always found that something that was very satisfying at the time, in particular, because the classical musical world that I was a part of for many, many, many years, um, in general, does not take the world of heavy metal that seriously. And so for me, that was like this acknowledgement from the world I'd grown up in, acknowledging the new world that I was partaking in, to kind of acknowledge my existence as a writer, composer, and what we were doing is something that was real and genuine art.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I did this because I grew up on, studied on classical guitar as well and stuff. And like one of the tracks on my latest album, I had a guy from Melbourne actually, Daniel Nestico, amazing classical guitarist. So we used part of his track, and he did a composition of Chopin, and we did like a rock version of that as well. So just to get that going, and it sounded amazing. So it was really good. Combining those two different styles, I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different things you can do with music that I think are, fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. Now, so going over to the Melbourne tour, oh, sorry, the Australian tour, it's coming up like in 2 weeks' time or something.
Yes, yes, starts on June 10 in Perth, and we make our way to Melbourne on June 13th at 170 Russell,
Yes.
which is very excited. We have Psychoptic, one of Australia's best metal bands, along for the ride as the main support on the tour, and excited to finally be playing in Australia again. It's been more than a year and a half. It was September 2023 since the last time we played in Australia, so it's been too long.
Yeah. Now, I did notice on the notes it said something about you might have some special guests. Now, can that be announced or not really?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, we are for the Melbourne show in particular. There's a few people that are going to be joining us. Some are to be confirmed, so I'll leave them out. But um, but my sister Emma, who is featured in a lot of our songs, actually,
Hmm.
she's kind of like the hidden, extra live member, because whenever you hear a string section on any record from Citadel, Urn, and Exile, those string sections are often created through many, many layers of her and me both playing. So I'll record her 6 or 7 times, we'll record me 6 or 7 times. We use a bunch of studio tricks, and it makes a string section, and it's a lot cheaper than hiring an orchestra. And so I'm grateful to have another professional violinist in the family. So she's going to be joining us for the Melbourne show. My daughter Amelie, who played with us last time we were in Melbourne, she's going to be joining us again, which is going to be super exciting. And then we also have Jesse Spin, who is the dancer who featured in our Graal music video, doing a range of dance and fire performing and stuff like that in that video. She's going to be performing with us live as well, which is really exciting. And so, that's something that's quite different that we've never done before, like including a dancer in the show. And we've kind of worked out a few different parts to include her and in different ways to add to different parts and elements of the show, and something a bit different. And it's kind of fun challenge and working out the lighting show to enhance that and all those different things. And so, yeah, it should be a really special experience.
Yeah. Is that all in Australia or just the Melbourne show?
So some of those are just in Melbourne. Jesse's joining us for the whole East Coast, and some others it's kind of to be confirmed at the moment.
Yeah. How about your daughter? Is she going to follow you on tour?
Unfortunately, she's got school, and so it's always a little bit tricky because got to make sure she is able to do her own things, and she's got her own classes and things like that, stuff that she's got to do. Yeah, there is a chance that maybe she'll come up for the Sydney show, but kind of waiting to see how we go a bit
Yeah.
closer to the date.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I do a duo with my daughter. She's 29, but it's just amazing. Like, we've been playing together pretty much all our lives, and it's a great feeling, though, isn't it?
Absolutely. And when Amelie, my daughter, came up on stage when we were playing at the Forum here in Melbourne back on our last tour, uh, by far the biggest cheer of the night was for
Really?
her. And which was really sweet from the crowd. Obviously being a hometown show, there's some people that knew that it was my daughter. Other people just recognized her from the music video, even if they didn't necessarily know the connection to me. But that was, a really special thing. That was right towards the end of the show, and I kind of back announced that it was my daughter to the audience, and she got such a big smile on her face when she saw how excited people were and how much people appreciated that moment. So it was, yeah, very special.
That's great. Yeah. No, love it. Now, I was going to ask you also, because I know, so listen to some of the songs, and the guitars are detuned or low tuning. So with your violin, do you have to? Is it standard tuning, or do you got different tuning for that?
Yeah, so actually all of our stuff is in standard tuning, but just since our second record, Citadel, we play seven-string guitars, so it's in basically standard B. And so thankfully for that, it means that it's pretty easy for me on the violin. We don't have too many songs that are in keys that are super difficult for a violin to play.
Yep.
Every now and then the guys might write a riff that's in some insane key for the violin, and I might be like, hey, does it work to just move that just a tiny bit so that I don't have to play with, six flats or something like that? But generally, like naturally, most of the stuff is in standard tuning either for six or seven string guitar, so it's not too difficult for me, thankfully.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I did try. I mean, I've got something I prepared a bit earlier. I can't play, so yeah, this is what I got at home.
Nice.
And I've got two other, they're all from school. I've got two other ones with two strings on it and one with a busted bow. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do what, the violin and viola as well?
Yeah. So I started learning a bit of viola when I was at university. My teacher at the time, Finton Murphy, he had kind of recommended, he was like, hey, your hands are, you know, fairly big, you could play the viola, you're fairly tall. It'd be really good. His suggestion was kind of, practical, like pragmatic as like business of like, well, there's a lot of good violinists, there's not a lot of good violists. If you can play the viola, there's more gigs, there's more work.
Yeah.
And that was true because I started doing a bit of viola through university, and then sometimes there'd be a string quartet that would need a violist to fill in for a wedding, and
Oh, yeah.
you know I could do violin or viola, so it just meant there was a few more opportunities.
Hmm.
I haven't actually done a lot of viola with Obliviscaris stuff until on Exile. For the first time, I included a couple of viola parts, and actually with some new music that I've been writing lately for the band that'll be on the next record. There's one bit that actually has two viola parts, like a duet together. So um, I think I got to buy like maybe I got to buy a five-string electric so I can get the low viola C string.
Yeah.
Because I want to be able to play I want to be able to play this stuff live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it has to go on a backing track. So, that's definitely something I'm looking to explore more though moving forward.
Yeah. And how about the cello? Ever played that?
Yeah, I have a cello in my bedroom
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, but I can't really play it very well. I can play, maybe some beginner pieces. My mum used to play the cello. The
Oh,
one
okay.
that I have used to be hers.
Hmm.
And so but it's a beautiful instrument, one of my favorite instruments.
Yeah.
The technique it's related, but also quite different.
Was it?
Just because of the positionings of different things. So
Hmm.
it's fun to play around a little bit, but you'd never see me performing on the cello for sure.
Yeah. I suppose it's a bit of a combination between the violin and bass guitar, I guess. The cello, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, like it's similar in the aspect of um like the use of the bow
Yeah.
is similar, and yet at the same time the bow hold and the way you create weight is different for the cello.
Okay.
And the same way that in the left hand, the way that you shape your hand is slightly different, and the way that you create vibrato is a different technique.
Ah,
And so there's all these things where it's kind of related but different. And so obviously, if you wanted to pick it up more seriously, you would get a bit of an advantage because you already know related techniques.
there you go.
But unless you really sit down to dedicate yourself, the techniques are different enough that it's difficult. It's still difficult, to do.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Now, just so quickly go back to the tour. So you're playing the two albums, aren't you? Like
Yes.
complete albums?
Yes. Yeah. So we're playing our Citadel album from 2014 in full, and our latest album, Exile, in full as well. So it's about a 2 hour show, and we're looking forward to making a very special one for everyone there.
Yeah, oh, that's going to be great. No, I can't wait. I'll definitely try and make it down to the Melbourne one, so hopefully.
Well, thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah, no, thank you. And it's been great. So, yeah, anyone out there, check out the albums and you won't be disappointed. Amazing musicians.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thanks, Tim. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you in Melbourne in a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely. Hope to see you there.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much for having
Thank
me.
you. I'll see you then. Bye bye.
Bye.